Okay, this one's not entirely serious. What you should do if your brakes fail. I was reading the internet and I saw this by this guy that was telling you what you should do when your brakes fail. And I'll read part of it. Going downhill, suddenly you really realize you have no brakes. This has happened to me, so. At first, you panic at first, start hitting the brakes again, you freak out, then you start saying, what should I do now? Well, actually hitting the brakes several times is actually a good idea. If you're low on fluid, sometimes it pumps a little bit of fluid into the brake line. A lot of this doesn't really happen quite so often anymore because the dual braking systems eliminate a lot of this. Okay, then the guy says, first you have to be calm and start thinking slowly of the next decisions you need to make. No brakes mean that you have both the engine and parking brake left to help you stop. The trick is to use them both correctly in order to safely stop. By that time you've went off the road and you're flying down a hill. And you're crashing down. You're going down a really steep hill. Lots of curves, all that sort of stuff. Kind of a worst case scenario. This actually happened to me in a 1-ton van one time. The brakes faded, and yeah, I survived. Okay, assuming you have an automatic transmission, first of all, drop down one gear and check where the RPM of the engine is at. You need to raise your RPM to approximately 3,000 or 4,000 to help slow you down. That would be right. No, you drop the lowest gear you can find. You can't put it in reverse, but you drop it as low as you can find, because at this point, do I really care about the health of the engine of my car? No, I don't think so. Okay, next one. Start turning on your headlights, fog lights, brake lights, hazards, dome lamps. You probably already got your foot on the brake anyway, so the brake lights be on maybe. Radio, phone charger, and any electrical accessory you can reach. These will put a load on the alternator, which helps your engine to brake. I'm going to turn on my radio and my phone charger, dome lamps, hazard lights. There isn't enough power in any of this stuff to make any real difference. You know, by this time, again, you've ran off the road and you're flying down the hill and you're dead. You don't have time to do all this stuff, and none of it would make any difference anyway. The air compressor on that thing is not going to slow the refrigeration compressor is not going to slow this thing down one whit. It's not going to make any difference at all. Even putting it in a lower gear doesn't help much in an automatic. Stick shift, you can start dropping gears until you get down to first. And if you got a truck, first and under, yeah, you might win then. After you do this, all these steps, you will feel your car is no longer accelerating. In fact, it starts slowing down. Or at worst case, its speed will get steady. Okay, after you've done all this stuff, you're supposed to now engage the parking brake very slowly. Okay, you can't put the thing in park. It won't go into park while it's going downhill, or while it's moving. And you have turned on your dome lamps and your radio and your phone charger, but you haven't pushed the emergency brake yet? That is actually the second thing you do. Actually, it's the first thing you do. Once you find the brakes don't work, you hit the emergency brake. And you don't hit it a little bit. He's got this thing very slowly until you barely feel your car starting to slow again. Do not engage the parking brake too much. The risk of locking up the wheels and losing control is so high. Well, most parking brakes are actually on the rear wheels, which is not going to make a lot of difference in your control. Your control is going to be in the front. And you've already lost control if you're flying through the air. Okay. After you start engaging the power brake, you could maybe drop down one more gear. Keep downshifting progressively until you reach first gear. By that time, your speed will be about 10 to 15 miles an hour. You are safe now. Okay, that is a ridiculous thing. What do you actually do if you lose your brakes? This is from a guy that's had this happen quite a bit. When I was a young fellow, all the brakes were single cylinder, which meant the front and rear brakes, or crisscross, were all the same. And if you lost fluid in one, you lost them in all of them, and you had no brakes at all. Okay. If in that first half a second you have not pulled that emergency brake as hard as you can pull it, you're an idiot. You can drop the gear. If it's an automatic transmission, it doesn't make a lot of difference. In the case of where I was coming down the hill with the truck, I was only going about 20 miles an hour to start with, and first gear ain't gonna make a lot of difference at 20 miles an hour. As you see the road coming at you, you are going to hit everything as fast as you can. Forget the dome lights and the air conditioner and all that sort of crap. Just forget all that stuff. Hit the emergency brake, and if you're going down a long hill with a side hill on the upside, and I haven't done this, but a friend of mine did, drop into the ditch, rub the side of the car up against the hillside. I mean, this is last ditch stuff. You're not worried about how the paint is on the car at this point. If you have to run into the ditch on the hillside of where you're going, that's what I do. Pump the brakes, hit the emergency brake, drop it as low gear, and if you're still accelerating, do something to decelerate that car, like put it in a ditch. You probably have a damaged car, but you'll be a live driver behind the wheel of a damaged car. That's all I got on this one.